Good afternoon, this is Jeff again here, or good morning. Making the second video link. This is 200 Northwest 86th Avenue. Now doing the pullback. For some odd reason, my foot counter reset itself there while I was locating. Anyway, we're in reality here. When I did the foot count on it, we were about 111 feet. I think for some reason my thing reset and did not zero out and account for the about 20 feet of vent we dropped down. So anyway, it's a hard line to locate, but I picked up the signal about where I expected it to be, being how long this thing is. I'm locating, the only signal I get is basically directly in line with this roof vent, which as the line exits the house, I haven't figured out if it's going out the front or if it pops out the left side yet and then runs straight out to the road. Either way, we're lined up pretty nicely with the front left corner of the home, and I describe everything as if you're in the street facing the front of the house. Where I just picked that up was a good 8 feet beyond the street curb, kind of in the right-of-way area for the neighbors across the street. So this thing looks like it crossed the entire width of the roadway. It went about 8 feet or so beyond the curb on the other side of the road. And I'm doing my best here to keep the line drained out. We got a bathtub that does not want to drain very quickly. So thus far here, I haven't seen any areas with any level of standing water that's concerning, or hardly any at all. Which is kind of a miracle, honestly, for a line this age made out of concrete pipe. That's one of the reasons why I really recommend getting this thing updated, especially by liner, and even more so if you're in Washington County. This is a line you want to get dealt with, because you're going to be doing a very, very large trench that's going to go from one curb all the way to the other curb and beyond, or some other type of repair that will require a lot more digging than you'd like to. So anyway, the first video out there, I pointed out there's a lot of joints in the line that are starting to become exposed to the ground, letting dirt, earthworms. Holy. I'll have to show you this little treasure that just came out on my camera cable here. Good heavens. Sorry. Pulled a ball of hair and string out of the line here the size of a Norwegian ship rat. This is one of the reasons why you don't want to put stuff like dental floss down the line. I'll have to show that with the camera when I pull it all the way out here. Anyway, joints like that one's starting to become separated and open to the ground there. We've gone past some of the earthworms and stuff I showed on the original run out there. We may not see, my camera knocked them loose and whatnot. Starting to get a little bit of pooling right here, although we still have some water running. I can tell you when all drained out, you're going to have a little bit there. So you just, if it's not updated now, you just want to make sure you're doing this at some point in the not too distant future, so you don't run the risk of the line settling so badly that you don't get a good result out of a liner. If you don't care about that kind of a thing, cost savings, I mean, obviously you can probably let the line go longer. And we're having a lot of rain today. That spot I marked out there is to be considered rough. I've got a lot of overhead power lines there. My depths were jumping around between 2 feet and about 12 feet. So I can tell I'm picking up some interference from that. But I'm using red marking paint. And if you were to walk straight away to the other side of the road there from about the front left corner of the house, it's right before a row of arborvitae in the neighbor's yard over there. But because of the rain, I may not be able to leave a lot of permanent markings down on the ground. Anyway, the line is not updated now. The big thing is treating it nicely. I mean, that's the case for a lot of older homes, that the pipe materials just have a rougher texture to them. You want to make sure that only stuff going down it is folded toilet paper, ideally. No wipes, paper towels, tampons, things like that. They snag up very easily in older pipe materials. But as this thing sits right now, it's not running a risk of causing a blockage in the immediate if you're treating it as you're supposed to. My recommendation here is to ensure that you can get a much more cost-effective, more convenient way of getting this line updated. Realistically, it's going to need that in probably within the next 5 years or so. Sometimes you can get surprised. That's why you want to rescope periodically to monitor the condition of the line. Some of them age slower than others. All right, so right now we're sitting about 15 feet from the curb on this side of the road, and I'm still having a hard time with depths here. There's a run of power lines that goes almost directly over the top of the sewer line, the entire length that this thing runs, and it's messing my locator. I'm getting some very odd depths, jumping around from like 2-3 feet deep to extremely deep, which I can tell my locator's having a hard time discerning between the camera head and the interference the power lines are putting off. Now this thing runs right along the row of trees and bushes and stuff on the left side of the property. So another reason to keep an eye on things. As the line ages, it's just going to become more and more likely that roots are going to penetrate through. We've already got at least one of them in here. I showed that one on the way out, the advance out. So like that joint there in particular, you've got moisture seeping through it, groundwater seeping through. That moisture on the sidewall of the pipe there, what can be hard to see sometimes is right at the top part of the water line. Sometimes you'll get a very subtle crack that will form and it will allow groundwater to seep in. That's often why you get that water line that starts going up the sidewall of the pipe like that. It's getting absorbed into the concrete. Anyway, you can see that dark line going down the sidewall of the pipe there. It's a common spot when transite gets old enough and worn out enough, it'll often start splitting in half right along that line. Alright, I'm going to push just past this turn here. My markings are somewhat limited. You're going to see, and I apologize for the color of paint. I just opened up a new box my supplier sent me, and for some reason it's like brick red. It's supposed to be green. Anyway, you'll see a marking at the start, the middle, and at the end. This is something, if you do any digging on it, it's going to need relocating. There are better locating systems out there that can discern between the signals better. So if you do any digging, you're going to want to relocate before doing any stuff like that. Anyway, the advance out video showed a lot more on it. A lot of the water that's gone through the line in conjunction with my camera has broken a lot of it loose. In the transite concrete and the advance out, you can see dirt sitting along the sidewall of the pipe, about where that water line is at. So I don't know if the house has sat for a little while, but that's common. Once water starts moving through the line, it starts to wash it all away. So anyway, line does not need, from a flow standpoint, updating right now. My suggestion here is I've seen this enough times over my career that last thing I want is for someone to wait too long on these and end up having to do a trench, especially on a line this long and under an immense amount of concrete, and also going up into the neighbor's front yard too. So if you can do that trenchlessly, that's going to make everyone happy. So if not now, make sure a rescope is performed about every year to monitor the sewer line, to keep an eye on things. The roots that we went past, I think my camera smashed them against the sidewall on the reel back end. You could get a much better view of them as we advance out. They're small enough right now that I wouldn't go to the effort of cleaning this thing, especially if you're going to push this off down the road a little ways. I wouldn't want to put any more wear and tear on it as necessary. If they were large, it would be justified doing so, but right now they're small enough, I would just let it be. And then just keep an eye on things as time goes on. If repairs do happen, make sure a rescope is performed to check the work. Very important to do that. If you do a dig style repair, anything of that sort, you want to make sure your rescope is happening after the trench is closed, not beforehand. You're not going to catch any settling problems that occur. So from a flow standpoint, we have adequate flow all the way to the main lateral. Very little issue that way. Quite a clean sewer line. My concern here is more from a structural standpoint and longevity. Alrighty, I'm getting a little bit more consistent depth here, but still jumpy. I'm getting between 5 feet and 9 feet. Rather than 2 feet and 13 feet. These power lines are messing things up. The line runs almost directly underneath the row of power lines on the left side of the property line, all the way to the main. You'll see a red T marking over there. That's where the concrete starts, and then a couple dots that kind of show it leading back towards the house. I did see a tie in here at the start of the line. That clean out may very well be inside the house. They often get walled off on these things. Anyway, you can follow those lines back to the house there. and kind of guesstimate about where the clean out would be. If it's not there, it's going to be inside the home where it's walled off. So this is one that may very well require a clean out access be installed. It'd be nice to put a two-way clean out in, that way you can service interior and exterior from outside the home. Anyway, it's about 10 feet up from the front left corner, up the left side of the home is where the line exits out. It doesn't go out the front, it shoots out the left side of the house. It gets about 5 feet or so away, about where the row of vegetation is and where the power lines are. That's about where the line turns, and then runs dead straight from that point all the way to the other side of the road and beyond. About 8 feet or so beyond the street curb is where you'll see that red marking just before a row of arborvitae on the opposite side of the street. Anyway, nice to see a line this age still has flow that good, and that's the reason why I highly recommend you consider the liner option on this, and even more so if we're in Washington County here. In this circumstance, it will save humongous amounts of money. We're probably talking a third the cost of a traditional repair, so it's a big savings.